Welcome to the Coach Within. I'm your host, Coach Jedi, a podcast where transformation begins from the inside out. Here, we explore coaching conversations that unlock clarity, spark insight, and bring you closer to your purpose. Whether you're a coach, a leader, or someone on the journey of personal growth, you're in the right place. Each episode brings real stories, practical tools, and thought-provoking reflections to help you thrive in life, leadership, relationships, and dreams. Let's journey inward, ignite the coach within, and brave your story. So I'd like to get started today sharing something really important. I thought that one of the key concepts in coaching, it's this idea of the coaching mindset. And too often, many people get confused with the idea of the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. And they naturally equate a growth mindset to a coaching mindset. While on one spectrum, there are truths and there are merits to that, but it doesn't really fully encompass the entire premise of what a coaching mindset is all about. And for us, one of the key important things to think about is the idea that the world we live in has infinite possibilities. There's infinite perspectives. For example, think about this with your friends. When you're choosing, say, for example, a meal, how many of us can come and identify a meal almost instantaneously? It's going to be hard because everyone will have their own thoughts, their perspectives, their considerations, their cultural nuances, maybe their feelings, maybe the sense that they're getting from the day, or maybe it's just their gut. They have this feeling that they want something for today. So even amongst friends or even amongst yourself, you find that there are many different worldviews. And I call this the world that is seen and the world that is unseen. So one of the things that we kind of learn in the coaching mindset is to be able to embrace what can be seen and what can't be seen. Because far too often, as coaches, we have relied on our eyes for too long. We have seen the world through our lens, and we interpret the world through our lens, and we begin to form patterns, beliefs, ideas, rules, regulations within ourselves and to guide us to navigate this complex world. So as we grew up from our early childhood all the way to our adult years, we begin to formulate these rules within ourselves. And we call this the rule of life. Now, these rules are not spoken, they're not written down, but they are rules on our hearts that guide us in terms of what we choose, what we decide, what we allow ourselves to do, what we don't allow ourselves to do. Think about this. For example, if I were to ask you, let's go for a roller coaster ride. What is the rule you would tell yourself? Would you say, yeah, let's go for it. Let's give it a shot. Let's give it a try. It sounds interesting. It sounds exciting. Let's try that out. So some of us may say, hey, you know what? I don't mind going for that. Some of us may be a little bit more hesitant. We may think, oh, mine, it's a roller coaster ride. I'm not sure what's going to happen. So I think we better be careful. And so even just a simple roller coaster ride triggers different rules within us. Some of us flight, some of us fight, some of us embrace, some of us love, some of us lean in. And this is what we call our rules of our world. Every world is governed by rules. The world we live in, planet Earth, is governed by its own rules. There are the rules of gravity. There are the rules of atmospheric pressure. There are the rules of lift. There are the rules of Bernoulli effects, air principles. And there are many different rules around us, the rules of life and death. So, and the rules of decay and the rules of entropy. So you see, even in our own physical world that we're living in, we can evidence that because that is common amongst everyone. Everyone will experience breathing. Every living human being breathes. Every living human being experiences water, light, sound, texture. We see the ground as it is. So if we have our five senses, we can see everything that's around us. But how many of us have overly relied on our senses? To be blessed with five senses, it's truly a blessing. Not everyone is born that way. Some of us may lack certain senses. It doesn't make us any lesser than those with five senses. And this is something important for us to think about. Have we overly relied on one sense and forget to tune into the other sense? One of the more recent experience I gained was when I was watching this show called Wicked. And in that show, there was a teacher. His name was Dr. Gilliman. And in that show, Dr. Gilliman, he was experiencing and sharing with the students about history, about what happened in the land of Oz, and what came to be of the animals. But suddenly, as he was flipping the board, there were red words written all over the board. Animals should be seen and not heard. And that kind of threw the class in a shock. And it was a shock to Dr. Dillerman as well, because he was a goat and many of the animals were not permitted to teach. That was a big trigger. So I shared that story because in that short scene, we saw something significant. There were conflicts of views, there were conflicts of worlds. From the world of Oz, they embrace the notion of animals being teachers, it's normal, and embrace the diversity, the inclusivity of different students from different parts of the world. However, something was changing in Oz that caused a conflict. The wizard wanted to have more control. The wizard wanted to kind of put everybody in cages in the certain rules of his own, but not realizing that those rules are impacting the citizens and eventually the rebellion of the people. And that's when the birth of the Wicked Witch of the West was formed. So you see, our rules that we use in our world will influence the rest of the world. So for too often, we think that, oh, it's just our lives, that doesn't impact anyone else. But do you realize that your choices does impact the people around you? If I choose, for example, to say, well, I don't give a second thought about life. I just do whatever I want. I'm on the road. I can drive however I want. If I do that, I'm endangering the lives of other drivers as well. So rules are there not to kind of like imprison us. Rules are there to guide us, to help us, to aid us. And the reason why human beings need rules, it's really because it serves as a social construct to support us in our humanity, to support us in our community, to support us in who we are. So our world has two different key elements. One is the world that we can see, we can touch, we can feel, we can experience, we know, because it's external towards us. So it doesn't matter if we have eyes to see or ears to hear or mouth to taste, but we can see and experience that. So when I use the word seeing, it's the idea that we can experience the world around us. So we can truly experience the world around us. We can touch it, we can embrace it, we can feel it. It's all around us. And that is our world, what is seen. Now, those things that we see oftentimes come in conflict with what we can't see. So what are things we can't see? So imagine an iceberg with me. At the top of the iceberg, we can see a little piece of ice. And we can't see that 90%, that 70% that sits underwater. As it goes deeper, it gets darker and darker and darker. And those are what we can't see. And so I call that the world that's unseen. What we observe and hear and experience in our physical world oftentimes is an interpretation of what the real reality is. We give our own ideas. Even though we can see and touch and feel, it does not make something absolutely true. Think about this. I can eat a piece of bread. 10 other people can eat that same piece of bread. But to one person, they say, wow, that bread is life-changing. To another, it's just a piece of bread. Nah, I don't really like it. There's no flavor. I need some strawberry jam on it. To another person, they say, hey, I need my bread toasted. I don't like it soft. So the context matters as well because the environment influences the way we see the world or the way we interact with the world. So even for that piece of bread, it has its own interpretations. We see that same bread, but we experience the bread very differently. Now, why is this important as a coaching mindset? Because I want all of us to realize that we have clients who may have gone through similar things as us. They may have been through similar life experiences, they may have been through similar life ups and downs, but that does not mean that they are going through the same as us. They experience things through the lens. We experience things through our lens. And so we have to apply a certain level of empathy, a certain level of care, a certain level of understanding towards the other party. And I think that is something going to be really important for us to truly experience, because it's not about what we say or don't say. It's really about how we show up in this world, in this process. So when we see the world that is seen, we call that the world that's seen and experienced by us. So the first concept here I want to share with all of us is the idea of what is seen, what is experienced, what is heard, what's interacted in the world might not always be what it seems. I know it sounds counterintuitive, like I thought a touch the bread means it's a bread. Well, because we're only using our eyes to see it. Have we used our nose to smell it? Have we used our touch to touch it? Have we used our sense of hearing to hear the crispiness of it or the softness of it? So you see, we often use just one singular sense or over heighten a single sense, not incorporating the rest of the senses in, failing to actually fully understand the complete nature of the world around us. But that's just the surface. What about the undersurface? Just like the iceberg, we can't see that huge chunk of the ice hitting underwater, and only when the boat strikes it and then we realize, oh no, I've struck something hard. So the underwater currents or the underwater ice, it's just as important. And that's where the coaching process will focus a lot of time on. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't focus on what is seen. We explore in a certain measure, but we have to go a little bit deeper. So when I say when we go deeper, it's not those esoterical sense of deep understanding into the deep abyss. But this idea of deep understanding or going deeper is understanding the drivers, the motivation, the impetus, the what goes behind the war, why you do what you do, what are the values, what are the beliefs, what are the rules that's behind that, what are the layers that is built up over the years, what are the generational impacts, or what are the cultural norms, or what are the traditions and the familiar norms that, or the family culture, or your own personal ethical, moral viewpoints, or your spiritual viewpoints that is influencing your choices in what you see. Those are critical elements for us to realize. And that is what I mean when we say what is seen and what's unseen. So, what is unseen here becomes something really, really important for us. So, we want to be sensitive to the client's map of the world. Be sensitive to whoever they are. Be sensitive to the world around them, because that is really who the client is. So, when we say the world, what is seen and what is unseen, too often we are only focusing on just one slice, which is the world we see. So what's unseen? There are elements like this. So I'm going to layer the levels of depth. The first layer are usually what we call the drivers, the whys of what we do. For example, if today I'm feeling hungry and I go to a fast food restaurant, for example, McDonald's or some other places, I can ask myself, what is driving me to go there? I may not ask myself, what values am I embracing to make the choice? Because that is too deep a question, or there's jumped too many logical levels. So at least at the most superficial level, I may ask myself, what is the context for today that I'm feeling for McDonald's? What is driving me? What is my drivers for that? Or what is my motivation? What is the thing that's triggering me to choose McDonald's apart from the others that are available for me? Well, I could say maybe perhaps it's about convenience. It's not the best burger, it may not be the best food, but convenience. Okay. So I value convenience over the quality of food. Now, not quite, because there's another element, because today is the weekend and there are so many people all around, and I don't want to be queuing for like an hour or two just to have my meal fixed, because I feel that my time can be worth better doing something else. So balancing between having a better meal better food quality versus or vis-a-vis having the quick fix, something to fill my stomach and let's get going. I'd rather value the other. So notice what's happening here. Even in making a daily choice, we are relying on certain rules, the rules of our world, right? We have had unspoken rules, and these rules layer upon layer upon layer. So there's different things. If it's a weekend, this is our rule. If that's a weekday, there's a rule. If it's a time where there's nobody, that's the rule. So you notice that these are what we call our worldview. What can be seen, what can't be seen. Now, why do I use the iceberg as a great metaphor for us to understand? Because an iceberg is a visual element for us to see why are there conflicts or clashes in our world. How many of us have clashes or conflicts with our peers, with our loved ones, with our family members, with your children over certain decisions, certain choices? How many of us truly love what we eat when we go out and hang out with friends? For some people, they say, hey, I value the friendship and the discussions more than the choice of food, so I'll go with my friends. For others, they may say, hey, I really care about my food, so it's okay. My friends can go ahead, I'll go and make my own choice because I value food more than friends. So we make choices like this, and these are what we call when the iceberg hits another. So on the surface, we may ask the question, oh, why are you like that? Or why are we like that? Or why are they like that? We ask the question, why is he like that? Why is she like that? Why are they like that? But we fail to realize it's not about why are they like that. It's more about the two icebergs meeting at the deeper sea or in the deeper oceans. There are clash of rules, there are clash of values. So you may ask me, Jedi, what forms these rules? Well, the rules are formed or formulated over the years from our earliest experience of our human life, from childhood, educated from our developmental ages, influenced by our surroundings, parental guidance, familiar ones, friendships, friends, experiences, life setbacks, memories, good ones, bad ones, happy ones, sad ones. They form the rules. So when we say rules, it's formulated as a consistent mechanism to protect you from the world. For example, if today I put my finger into the wall socket, I get electrocuted, I get a little shock, I know I'm not going to do that again. Or if I put my hand on the hot stove, I know I'm not going to do that again. I've formulated a rule. The rule is when you see a kettle, don't assume it's hot. Don't assume it's cold. Touch it lightly, feel if it's hot. If it's hot, let your finger go. So you see, we all have rules like this. These are rules formulated to protect us, to give us a sense of security. Now, it doesn't mean that those rules are bad or horrible or it's terrible. It's just, boxing us up. I want to feel freedom. It's not quite, because true freedom, it's freedom when you don't have to feel worried, you don't have to feel burdened by things. And too often times there's this debate that to be truly free, you must be free of all your rules. No. Because what does it mean to be truly free by all your rules? Because that in itself is a rule. You see, the rules are there not to prevent us, but to protect us. Just like when we have doors in our house. How many of us have doors or gates in our house? How many of us close the door and lock the gates when we are going to sleep? Well, you can tell me and say, oh, well, I trust people's good nature. I trust the world. I trust things. I don't think I should close the doors. I should leave my doors wide open, keep it open for the rest of the world because, it's so uninclusive if I don't close my door and lock my door. Now, pray tell, why would we have houses, individualized houses for everyone? If we really want to be free, well, let's not all have houses. Let's all share a common space. Let's live under the savannah. Let's live under the trees. If what we care is climate, what we care is nature, then why not? Let's not build anything. Let's not have any modern day technology advancements. So we can see there's a conflict of values, there's a conflict of rules over there. On one spectrum, I've seen protesters arguing for the sake of, I want to use less oil. But on the other hand, for them to get to the place of protest, they are flying there, they're driving their cars there, they're not even walking there. So they're demanding on others what they want for themselves. So you see, rules, when applied or forced onto others, don't become rules. They become protest. They become an engagement device that creates more conflict because those are your rules and those are not my rules. For example, if I say everyone on planet Earth has to only eat vegetables. Now, or everyone else, those who enjoy meat, will say, "Wow, how can you do that? That's authoritarian. That's you're a dictator. You're forcing everybody to make a choice in what you like." And then on the other spectrum, you have people saying that, "Wow, plants have life. There's scientifically proven if we can detect electrical pulses from the plants, so we should not eat plants. We should eat synthetic items created from the labs." So now you begin to see, wow, you have gone from spectrum to spectrum. The rules creates conflict. Conflicts create more misunderstandings, protests, anger, upset, and all this builds up into our world that we live in today. Now, you may ask me, Jedi, so where are these rules coming from? Well, the rules come from a place of our values, our beliefs, who we are, our personal identity, our personal personality, our experiences, our engagement, our backgrounds, our learnings. So all this fused together influences our daily choices. And as we experience life as it is, the rules become more and more fixed. And we call those fixed mindsets. They're not quite fixed mindsets. They are great to have. In fact, it's great to have fixed mindsets. Today, I've heard many leaders say, "Oh, we need to avoid fixed mindset. We need to embrace growth mindset." They get so caught up in the technical or terminology of things that they forget the essence of it. Fixed mindset is great. Growth mindset is great. But too much of either is not very good. For example, if all I'm thinking about is growth, okay, then my pursuit is always get more, get more, get more. Squeeze the bottom line, let's get more. But not realizing what's my mission. Is my mission all about just making dollars and cents? Or is there something more? Or is it just growing for the sake of growing, just changing for the sake of changing? Or because it's institutionalized in my organization that we need to have some new changes, we need to have some growth. So we're forced to make some changes. I've seen that in huge organizations before when they try to institutionalize creativity, change, agility, growth, and only to have people just randomly create things that don't seem to matter. You see, you can't force people to have a growth mindset. You can't force people to say no to fixed mindset. You can't force creativity. When you start having structures to creativity, growth, agility, learning stops. You don't get quality learning. I can get a certain form of learning. I can get a certain form of creativity. I can get a certain form of agility, but it's not the spirit, the heart, and the essence of it. So you see that fixed mindset is great. For example, what are some fixed mindsets that we live by? Waking up, brushing our teeth. Going to shower after, maybe after a long day at work or after sweating. So without these fixed rules, can you imagine if we say, "Oh, okay, I feel free today. I'm gonna have a growth mindset. So instead of maybe brushing my teeth, maybe I will not brush my teeth today. Maybe I'll brush my eyebrows." You see, that's not how it works. We need to have some fixed mindsets about certain things. When it's brushing my teeth, why do I brush my teeth? Can I do anything else other than brush my teeth? Well, I could gargle, but it doesn't get everything. I could floss, but it doesn't get everything out. So there are some things that requires us to have a fixed mindset about. For example, when I leave my house, I have to make sure that all the fire sources, electricity are turned off. If I don't have that final check every time I leave the house as a fixed mindset, then I'm living to chance, and that will create more confusion. So you see, one of the key things in understanding the fixed and growth mindset is understanding that it's not about trying to to do what's right or wrong, but it's understanding the implication of those mindsets. So understanding our infinite worldviews, I think it's key because this helps us to understand the rules that we live by. For example, our infinite worldviews encompasses our variety of lens, the uniqueness of a lens that we see through the world around us and how we perceive the world. And these worldviews are shaped by multitude of factors that I've just mentioned earlier, things like values, beliefs, ethics, morals, cultural traditions, experiences, interactions, and they are like a little filters that we've put in front of our lives, and that's how we interpret information around us. And with all these filters, what it does, it creates more things, right? With the filters, it influences our decisions, the way we interact with the world, the way we have concentric circles, the way we represent the world. So all this fundamentally influences who we are. It's that unwavering foundation that we need to act upon. So I call this little structure, this little framework of thinking, as the three layers of our infinite worldviews. And the outermost layer, I call this the what layer, because this layer encompasses the tangible expressions of our world, our actions, who we are, what we do. It's that visible manifestation of the who and the why that lies beneath. At the middle layer, it's what I mentioned earlier as well. It's the idea of that why we do what we do, that driver, that motivation, that thing that fuels us. So it's that middle layer that connects. But at the deeper core, and when we go deeper, are the rules, the values, the beliefs, the systems, the sense of ourselves, our identity, who we are, everything that's around us. That is the deeper who. So you have at the deepest level our core belief, identity, our rules, who we are. And that can mean, for example, I may say that, hey, I'm someone who believes in the power of learning. I am someone who believes in the good of people. I believe in doing good for others. And I recently saw the new trailer for Superman. And was really intriguing to see this because we could see the who of Superman. He's not just that stoic person, almost invincible person. No, he has that humanness, that human nature that say, hey, I'm not going to be bounded by government regulations or rules. My first and most top priority is to save lives. So if it means transgressing into another country without first doing all the proper documentation, I would do that because I live by the rules that life matters. Then we talk about the administrative parts later. So that is the who he is. And that's why we begin to see why he do what he does. He would fly to a different country, help them, save them. What he does, defeat the bad guys, save the innocents, bring peace again. And those are the what. And the why he does that? Well, because he feels that at that point of time, if nobody's going to help, he has the ability. If he feels he has the ability, he needs to help them, right? So at the deepest core is he feels that, hey, that's who I am. Save lives. And I have the ability to do that. Why don't you allow me to do that? So that is the conflict within. So you begin to see that the many different layers of who we are, the invisible world, like the iceberg, creates conflict within, because these conflicts will let us know what is it that we really matter, or what is it that we truly care about, what is it that matters to us the most. And what matters to us the most is how we see the world. And I like to share this, just like the world around us, the earth, it has that layer on the outer, structural layer of the earth, which is the land that we stand on, what we experience. But underneath the earth, it's many, many dense, thick layer of molten elements, heat, fuel, magma, and at its deepest core, there's a magnetic force that's moving deep in the center of the earth. We can't see it. We don't feel the heat underneath, but we're experiencing it. We're experiencing it through the force of gravity, experiencing it through the force of nature, experiencing it through the force of the crust in motion. So we do feel it at its crust. So we are living on the crust of Earth, on a very tiny slice of Earth. The Earth is much bigger than we can imagine. It's so much deeper. But you see, what is unseen, it's more important than what is seen. Because what is unseen impacts and influences everything that we can see. Just like today, when I say that we want to build greater mastery in our skills, it's not simply just getting more certifications. Too often, many coaches think that the process of mastery or getting to mastery level is just about certifications after certifications. No, it's not quite that. It's about gaining clarity, gaining mastery about who we are. You see, co-creation with the client is this interwoven togetherness of insight, strengths to create that transformation of shared growth. And so I like to end with this. I'll say, hey, the journey towards mastery, it's just like being in the stillness of the morning light that begins the quest, a path so bright. With every step, we seek to find the depths of soul, the breadth of mind. Through valleys deep and mountains high, we traverse under the endless sky. In the whispers of the wind's soft peal, we hear the call of mastery. Not in haste, nor fleeting stride, but in the moments where we bide. With patience as our guiding star, we journey near, we journey far. Through trials faced and lessons learned, with each setback a wisdom earned. For in the forge of time and space, we shape our craft, we find our place. The path is long, the road is steep, yet in our hearts a fire we keep. To hone our skill, refine our art, to touch the world, to leave our mark. In the dance of thought and deed, we plant the seeds, we watch them breed. A garden rich with knowledge sown, in every step we make it known. For mastery is not a distant shore, but a journey forevermore. A dance with growth, a song with time, a life of purpose, pure sublime. So walk the path, embrace the quest, with every breath give it your best. For in the journey we become the masters of our art, our sum. The journey of mastery, the journey of our world, it's complex. There are many ups and downs, there are many different paths, there are many different adventures. But I want us to embrace one thing. Our world is huge. Be curious, be learning, be humble, be patient with yourself, and allow that mastery to come in. The coaching mindset that we talk about since the start of this episode, it's really about embracing that. It's not about trying to do more. It's not about trying to get what's right, what's wrong. It's about embracing that moment in time. Embracing that mindset to say, hey, what am I doing here? How do I become more sensitive? Do I understand my own worldview? Do I understand my own mindset? Do I understand my own world, the world that I'm living in? And I think those are elements that will help you become a better coach. Thank you for tuning in to The Coach Within. If today's episode sparked something in you, take a moment to reflect, journal, or share it with someone who needs to hear it. Want to experience coaching or explore our upcoming programs? Head to jedi.coach or check out our show notes to connect. If this podcast helped you to grow, please follow, share, and leave a review. It helps more people to find us. And until next time, keep listening, keep reflecting, and keep braving your story from within.